you talk about board of directors. When board of directors become complacent, right, you have a corrupt president and probably with one or two other board members. They go ahead to do the wrong things. And board of directors are not salary earners. They are there on allowance that they can. So if this man goes and steal, for instance, in a project that he has brought up overnight in an institution, he steals 100 million. He comes and calls the board members. That project that we did, the person who is running the project came and said, well, this is an envelope to thank you for this. And then the board member suddenly sees an envelope of 500,000, 1 million. That is, that you know what we're talking about. But when they get back to where they are supposed to make decisions and question, they may not be able to speak again.
And I would like to find out from you about the powers of the board of directors. Are there some laws that can prevent them from, granting themselves loans? Because it looks like they can just go into the board, sit there, and decide to grant themselves the amount of loan they need for themselves. Is there something that prevents them from granting loans to themselves?
Yes, Ben, one of the things I want to say is that you know that very often law law is made at times based on observations and what is happening.
Yes, absolutely.
Initially, there was nothing that prevented or that gave some privileges to board of directors. On the contrary, credit union board of directors and staff were under special scrutiny because they are the ones running the institution, and which means they needed to take a lot of care to be sure that things went well. But later they started discovering that they created for themselves discriminatory interest rates, possibilities of giving themselves bigger loans. The law says for conflict of interest, when a board member's loan is being discussed, the board member is not supposed to be in that discussion. He's supposed to prepare his application, pass it through the number channel, and when that loan is being discussed in the board member should stay out. Right. All of this means little or nothing because these are 7 or 9 board of directors who talk and they can discuss every other thing even before that loan. So at the time that whether he's staying out or staying in, it doesn't change anything because there you are talking about conflict of interest that you don't participate in discussions that you will benefit. Board of directors, they went ahead to create, the law doesn't give that permission, to create a situation where they have loans at special interest rates. I think generally they won't take loans that are outside the range that the loan policy provides. But when they found all of this happening, the recent COBAC regulations prevented board members, general managers, and people who hold positions of influence inside the credit union not to take loans above certain limit, I think 50 million or so. I'm saying so because it's possible to walk into a credit union and borrow hundreds of millions, and that is happening. And so many people saw that as an opportunity. And the banking commission, the regulation, they came in and said, no, if you are a board member, this is the ceiling of a loan that you can take. But again, even this, when there is bad leadership, when there is bad governance, there is corruption, these people can still arrange, and I'm saying some are doing it, give these loans to other people, but which turn around and come to them because that law is holding them. And they can't openly do it because when control comes, that will show. They can still arrange and get that done behind. This thing is about who is seated there and what is in the mind of that person.
Absolutely. You talked about bending laws to remain in power, manipulating bylaws and things like that to remain in power. if they can do that, what can actually then prevent them from staying there forever? Members have no power to question them, to revolt against them. Every institution, even countries, progress because people change. We need to have change. Let bad people come and go, good people come and go. That's the change we need to make our country, our institutions to progress. My question is, are members so powerless that they cannot enforce their own laws to be respected? They must listen back to the laws from the Ministry of Finance or from COPAC or whatever?
No, I don't. You asked the question well, but this other one, what you are saying, there is nothing wrong in those laws. We are talking about implementation and the people there. So, because the laws themselves, I don't think that there is anything wrong in the laws, because all those regulations, the bylaws, the cooperative law, the microfinance law, the COBAC regulations, they are all there to guide the institution. And if they were properly implemented. So I don't think that is where the problem is. The question you ask is, are the members powerless? Remember, there is manipulation. The highest decision-making organ in the cooperative credit union is the members through the General Assembly. Now, do you know that there are institutions which the General Assemblies hold without the members actually knowing properly the venue and not well informed? Because the laws are very clear about, you need to announce this meeting by this period. You must do a second announcement. You must have this quorum available before you can conduct business. Do you know that there are credit unions that they I would say even hide venues for their meetings? Do you know that there are networks that go for years without holding annual general assembly, which is where the members are supposed to take decisions? Are you aware that some unions, they choose venues, and these venues are guided, and some people are prevented from participating? All of this is what I talk about corruption. Then, so it is not about the laws. The laws are there, but when you have the wrong people with the wrong mindset, they can use the money to use whatever to prevent the members from using their democratic rights. You know, there are institutions where before the General Assembly, the presidents, they decide on who can speak and who will not speak at this General Assembly. And you can only speak when you raise your hand and you are given the floor to air out the things that you know. But all of these things, they are prevented from happening. And this is, then you talk about board of directors. When board of directors become complacent, right, you have a corrupt president and probably with one or two other board members. They go ahead to do the wrong things. And board of directors are not salary earners. They are there on allowance that they can. So if this man goes and steals, for instance, in a project that he has brought up overnight in an institution, he steals 100 million. He comes and calls the board members. That project that we did, the person who is running the project came and said, well, this is an envelope to thank you for this. And then the board member suddenly sees an envelope of 500,000, 1 million. That is, you know what we're talking about. But when they get back to where they are supposed to make decisions and question, they may not be able to speak again. So I'm just giving you very simple examples as to the things that happen. And I don't discuss theory here. Remember, I've been in this system. I've observed situations. There are things that I try to fight. And of course, it gets to a point where even your life is at stake.
You just talked about, influence peddling, board members, and things like that. I would like you to be very concrete, maybe with some kind of examples, how board members are elected and the campaigns that goes with it, because I've seen people move from one Jangi house to another campaigning to be elected as board members. we don't even know why they are fighting, using money, bribing people, giving people drinks here and there to be elected as board members. If there was nothing there, they won't be campaigning and using money to that extent. I wanted to educate the people whether people are supposed to campaign from one family meeting, one church to another just to become board members. Is it legal? And why do they do that?
Ben, there is something, the culture of poverty in Cameroon, where when people are impoverished, then you can then play over them, you pray over them, you do whatever. Uh, Campaigning to become a board member of a credit union, do not enshrine in the law, even though while as general manager of a network, we try to do that with credit unions under our control. That may, in fact, I think in one of the union, it is clearly written in the bylaws that board members should not carry out campaigns prior to the date of the elections, which means that you are not supposed to move to the public. After all, uh, the constituency of the credit union is the General Assembly. It is not community where you start moving from churches to Njangi houses and so on. So my answer to that is it is wrong. But let's be clear, when they move around and do that, the members will receive whatever they are giving and with all the details as to how they should vote. I try to stop these campaigns. And in that law, what we say is since your constituency is the General Assembly, those who are vying for position in the board, during the annual general meeting, you are given an opportunity to stand in the assembly and explain to members why you want to become a board member, why you want to become a president or whatever position, and what you would do for the union, which at that time you are looking at the challenges of the union and explaining to the members how you will help them, right? And that is at the General Assembly during that meeting itself. Any other thing out of that, it's not okay. Now, let me move back to why are people doing this and where do they even get the resources to do all of this? Because some people spend millions. People campaign to become board members of a credit union more than they are preparing to go to the National Assembly, right? And if I go back a little bit down memory lane, I remember as a young credit union field worker, we used to go to general meetings, and even to get a board member was very difficult. The community knows somebody who is very honest, he has integrity. They get up and said, we want to nominate this person to become a board member. But the person said, oh, I really want to thank you very much. But my hands are so full, I can't become a board member because I will not have the time to do this. Today, it's completely the reverse. And why? We mentioned some of the things. They are arrogating to themselves the power to grant many big loans, and a good number of board members, when they leave the board, they leave with big loans. Now, recruitment in some of the unions has become something which never existed before, Ben. So in some union, staff or potential employees spend up to 3 million to get employed. So if you are a board member and all of this is happening, you share in the booty. Then let us move into some kind of projects that board members come up with. Oh, we are renovating branch offices here. We are building this, and all of that into hundreds of millions. If I remember a project in which the credit union was going to spend about 400 million to buy a piece of land, which I found unnecessary. And I said, this should not happen. But they went ahead and spent that money and bought that piece of land. And that's the challenge or the weakness of supervision. Because in supervision, you tell the people what is wrong. You even report to the General Assembly, and you have to the level of reporting even to the supervisory authority, as I told you, the Ministry of Finance, things that are not going well. But the people, why will they insist to spend that kind of money? Because part of what comes out of it is shared by the board of directors. So they know, some of the people know what is happening, and that's why they invest everything to become board of directors.
I see.
This is just to mention a few. I just told you that the corruption, they want to be part of that corruption. They want to benefit from some of those loans that they take, knowing that they will not pay, and all of that.
That is quite interesting because I've seen a lot of projects carried out by the credit union. Either they build houses here, they build structures here and there. Is it advisable for a credit union to invest in structures like that? What do they stand to benefit from such structures? Or is it just a means of siphoning money?
It, putting, let me be clear about what a credit union, a cooperative credit union's function is: mobilizing savings and deposits and giving loans back to our members. And at each point in time, the loans should represent about 75% of the savings mobilized. Excess of liquidity can be deposited in banks and can be invested. But also note that some credit unions have grown over time, that they have significant reserves. Now, with these reserves, the board of directors can project into the future what can be done that can make the institution more healthy, and also having some resources that generate income. So, board of directors, they look at all of this together with the general manager. They come up with strategic plans, what can be done over the next 5 years or so. They take that to the General Assembly, that they approve, then they can move ahead. Some investments make sense. Some of the credit unions, they put on structures in big towns, and those structures are yielding income from those unions. All of that, there's nothing wrong with it, as long as, number one, it does not impair on the liquidity of the institution. It doesn't have a challenge that you have taken credit union money and put it up in fixed assets. Then when the credit union now it wants to do its normal duty of giving out loans to members and so on, it's finding difficulties with that. So otherwise, credit unions are not supposed to be real estate institutions. That is not what they were created to do.
Absolutely.
I think in a in the country like the United States, where you are, when you look at the credit unions, most of them don't own structures. You go to very big credit unions, and you'll be surprised to hear that this is a particular credit union with just a small house. I mean, with the development of technology, you have very limited few staff, but delivering on so many members.
I asked that question because I was thinking, if tomorrow maybe a union like Azikyo is no longer there, they don't have members again, they've been, disbanded. I'm just giving an example. I'm not saying that they will be disbanded or things like that. If maybe a union like Ntarekon or whatever is no longer there, and they had invested in building structures here and there, in every city they have a house, they have this, those are not assets that can be easily sold and money given back to members as fast as possible. What do you think happens to such assets?
God forbid what you just said. But and I'm not saying that institutions, if they are poorly managed, as some are done, they may not eventually
Survive.
go out of business. But liquidation, it's a very lengthy process. Liquidation, like I said, it's a very lengthy process. Before the institution, first of all, it runs out of the liquidity, it's unable to serve its members again, then it will start the process of recovering all its loans, and then making sure that all its outstanding assets are recovered, and then it pays out all its own liabilities. And before they start disposing of those its own assets, and Of course, members are paid off together with whatever benefits come. Members' shares, that is the final thing. We are not there. We are actually talking about this bad leadership and governance for now.
Absolutely.
But those things, they belong to the institution. They form part of the assets of the institution. When you go into the balance sheet of those institutions, you will see that those various structures that they own are there together with as fixed assets, and then followed by their long-term assets, and then loans and so on. Yeah.
Great. We're driving towards the end, but let me ask you this pertinent question. Who actually controls money in the credit unions? The members, the managers, the board of directors, or some political network surrounding the institution? I'm saying this because during the credit union crisis that saw the disintegration of Cameroon, that umbrella structure into several factions, a lot of politicking which brought hawks from Yaoundé into the show took place. And they didn't go with that, some brown envelopes. So who actually controls the money in the
I will still get back to the philosophy and the governance. Then I get back to practicality. Everything in the credit union is owned and controlled by the members. That's step one. I explained this. I'm going back to it again and again because I think that this our discussion, this our conversation also serves as education to those who listen. Everything in the credit union, the credit union buildings, the credit union cars, the credit union savings, the credit union loans given out, they belong to the members.
But that's
And as I explained,
just
no, it is not. I am explaining. No, when you say theory, you are saying it's just like, okay, if I take the case of Cameroon where you run an election and somebody outrightly wins the elections and you can't put that person in seat. So what are you saying? Where is the theory in it? The thing is that the people are powerless. They don't want to do what they are supposed to do. So if you say it's theory, then it's not more a credit union. I am explaining what happens. And in this education, let the members know that they own those things. So I said, maybe you were cutting me short because you think that the members should pick sticks. There is a process of governance, right? The members own that institution. The members elect a board of directors. If the board of directors are not doing what they elected them to do, they vote them out. The board of directors, in turn, hire a manager. The manager, to be honest, on a daily basis, the person you're supposed to ask where is the credit union money is the manager who is there, because the keys of the safe, of the till, technically are handed to the manager. Because if something goes wrong, the board of directors will ask the manager. But surprisingly, you also get this, the manager doesn't hold those keys. They have the people who control the treasury of the institution, but that is under the manager. If you are talking about the money, that is how the money is. But about how the institution is run, the manager reports to the board of directors monthly. Balance sheet. These are total savings. These are deposits. These are loans outstanding. These are loans that are not doing well. This is money in the banks, in the various banks. The board of directors, they listen to all of this. By doing this, do I immediately stop corrupt board of directors from doing what we just discussed they are doing? No. Or does it change the fact that that is how it is supposed to be? It doesn't. But when you have the wrong people, as I just explained to you, they will use their methods, use the very credit union money to bribe at every level, state authorities, including, in some cases, even governors, to do the wrong things. I know a situation which was very critical, and the immediate person that you meet as an authority is the divisional officer in the community, in the environment. Like when I had a critical issue, really critical, during the COVID period, or a meeting should hold or they should not hold, and some people were taking advantage of the COVID to make sure that no meeting holds. I have to approach the divisional officer. We had to move to the senior divisional officer. And I give detail, I explain how those meetings can hold. There were directives. But because people have hidden agenda, they will go behind. meet the officer, give money, give all kinds of explanation why the meeting should not hold. I'm just giving you a clear example. So when you see people took advantage of all of this situation. So this is not theory. The fact that there is corruption does not explain that there are no clearly laid out ways of which things should be done. And like I said, if you vote board of directors and the board of directors are not delivering, the members, if they are not naive, I use this word deliberately, which is like, of course, similar to what is happening. You asked me a question before about how do I see what is happening in Cameroon. If you allow yourself to be manipulated, right? If you allow yourself to be manipulated, then you have yourself to blame. You don't sit back and you are crying and saying that, no, we are powerless or that it is theory. It is not. The laws are there. Use them.
Right. Yeah. I would like you to answer this with concrete examples. You know, what role in the credit union is incompatible with any elective post, a political elective post? Is there no incompatibility between being the president of a credit union and being a member of parliament or becoming the president of the Republic of Cameroon, kind of stuff like that?
I think the law is very clear on that. Subsequently, I would say that I think there's COBAP regulations and probably the more recent microfinance law that is developed or improved upon, because the very first law of 2002 was trying to lay down the grounds, because this was the first time microfinance was coming up. After the bank failures of the 1990s. The law then is very clear. And when you say president or what position, no, it's about board member, because you must become a board member before you become a president or whatever. You must, first of all, be elected a board member. The law is very clear that people who have political position, people who have some kind of positions in government, positions of influence, cannot be elected board members in a cooperative credit union. That's long ago. Or let me say, by extension, microfinance category 1. Because when I say cooperatives, everybody knows about the credit union, but it is not only the credit union that make up category 1 microfinance institution. I am saying that people who hold political office, people who have higher positions in government, ministers, and so on, these positions are incompatible with becoming board of directors. By the way, these are the very people who are supposed to play a supervisory role to ensure that the institutions run well. So if they themselves now become board members and if things are going wrong, who is going to control them?
That is the question.
So that's what I'm saying. So if you see it happening, it's wrong. And at the moment you find that there is this incompatibility, those people are supposed to leave one of those things. And the members can complain about this to the authorities for this to happen. If the members are quiet, okay?
Yeah, all comes back to the members because they own the credit union.
The institution, yes.
They own it. And we have just 2 questions left today because it's a series. We'll continue for a long time. If you were given unrestricted access to some credit union's books tomorrow, what 3 documents would you ask for first?
Is it in the form of audit or what? Yeah,
I'm just asking, if you were asked to go like to Aziko today, and because you know the mafia going on in all the credit unions, you were asked to go to Ntarikun today, you were asked to go to Aziri or some other credit union or Bakul or whatever today, what document do you think, if you ask, they will be shivering, they wouldn't like to give you?
Well, you need the financial statements of the institution.
Okay.
The financial statements, they paint the picture of the institution. Then you can move back to the trailer as to how the financial statement were done, which means you can then have a printout of a trial balance. You may also want to look at all the loans.
Yeah.
You want to look at all the loans, of course, starting with maybe the big loans, which means you can get a loan register if there is a manual loan register, or you have a printout of the loan situation. And then you look at the general investments, the assets, and how they are managed. I mean, there are quite a lot of things, but the indicators, they come first from the financial statements of the institution, which is the balance sheet itself, the income and expenditure statement, and the cash flow statement. If you look at this, they can give you indicators. And then from there, you can then move backward to look at all the other operational documents and how things are being done.
As an expert, if you are asked to identify the greatest weakness in the credit union today, what would that be? I mean, the greatest weakness that you would like to see change.
I think, I may take a case of an institution that is facing real crisis.
Yeah.
When you see an institution facing crisis, then look at the strength of the board of directors, look at the relationship between the general manager and the board president, look at the role the supervisory board is playing, and link this up to the supervisory organ, the supervisory, which in this case, it could be the network. How do they, because that is the first point of check. You have the internal, and of course, the internal control system, which means the internal audit. What powers does the internal auditor have? And can the internal auditor independently carry out his function and report to the board of directors? Are the board of directors doing their work? And then, is the institution holding regular meetings? Because another thing to check is to read the minutes of board of directors and the implementation of decisions. When they take decisions, are they implemented? Because when you read the minutes, and if the minutes are properly taken, because again, some presidents manipulate even the minutes. I mean, a lot is going wrong these days. So if you go through all of these basic things, it can tell you about the health of the institution.
Subscribe and make sure you watch all the editions. Thank you so much, Mr. Amos, for coming. See you next week.
Thank you so much, Ben. The pleasure is mine. I just want to say that I discovered that when you finish playing football, most of the people at the end of their career, they go into coaching. Having spent slightly over 40 years in this area, I think the best I can do is also in giving back in this way, and also other initiatives that we are working on, which we will eventually share on this platform.
Absolutely.
I wish to thank you very much.